Fuck yeah, buddy. I'm really looking forward to doing this with you. We tried, remember, was it last year, year before, and you were kind of driving through some pass or
Oh,
something, and you weren't,
that's right.
you kept cutting in and out. And I was like, dude, I was basically like, I love your band. I love your band. And I still fucking love your band, man. I, I can't think of the last rock band, not just in Canada, but just like in general that, uh, that I've liked as much as Broken Love, man. It's almost like every song is like tits, man.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad we get to do this again. I remember that. I was in the mountains. I think we were going through like the national parks or something out west in Canada. It was just shitty mountain like weather.
Yeah, it was something, yeah. But of course, you must be far. Like, how long have you had this Broken Love album? Your third, by the way. How long has it been in the can? And like, clearly you're fired up to get it out to the masses.
Oh my God. I mean, it's been forever. It's like, let's see. I think it's been done for about a year and a half, I want to say, which is not uncommon, you know.
No, it's not, but like as fans, like that's crazy to think, right?
Well, before I started doing this, I guess professionally, I was under the impression that bands just like made records and then put them out like, within like 2 or 3 months and it's still fresh. Little did I know that most bands are usually working on their next record by the time they're like, the record they had recorded um, is coming out. I don't know how to word it the right way, but
No, I
I'm
know what you mean. Like that's what we think as
so
fans. Like we think it's like Broken Love. They banged out this album. They're like ready to release, and it's like within a couple of months, and it's like what we hear. It's like a year and a bit. Like that's mind blowing, bro.
mean by the fuck, man. I mean, I could swear, right? Can I swear?
Yeah,
Okay. Just need to make sure I dropped an accidental fuck. Okay, like when I think about it, I recorded this record when I was 25 and I'm 27. It just happened to be like in the time where, it was my birthday when we had made the record or something. I was either 25 or 26. Whatever it was like I was much younger. Now I'm looking at the time and I'm like, holy fuck, I'm almost 30 and my album still hasn't come out, you know?
that's crazy, right? Because now like these songs are almost like old for you. Of course, they're going to be all brand new for your fans, right? Like,
I'm already over them. That's how I think it generally goes. By the time your record comes out, you've listened to it ad nauseum. Like also between you're doing the sequencing and you're picking the singles and you're picking um, you know, uh, which ones you're gonna cut and which ones you're gonna keep, and then you're listening to mixes, and then the masters comes in. Like you get hammered over the head with these songs so much that by the time like the record comes out, I've listened to the album like 200 times probably at this point.
wow,
I mean, of
that,
course, I still love it, and
of course, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I still listen to it a lot, and it makes me really proud for sure because I feel like my personal shit test is like if I listen to my songs one time and I don't like it, then I'm like, okay, I got to change this up. But I need to make sure I love it every single time I hear it, and I think that's important. I don't want to be the guy that hates his own music or is doing this for somebody else. I want to be really proud of it and feel really good about it all the time. So I'm constantly like reminding myself, okay, let's listen to the album, or I'll listen to something that's new and cool, and I'll be like, oh, how does this stand up next to my stuff? You know,
Mm. Well, like I
it's
said off the top, Justin, like I've been doing radio. I did radio in Vancouver for 15 years, 20 years overall, 11th year into podcasting now. And like for new rock bands, like I said, like off the top, I can't think of a band that has more potential than Broken Love, man. Like certainly of the last 5 to 10 years kind of thing, right? Like maybe go back a little bit further. Like Royal Blood is another band that I kind of put up at the same kind of pedestal, I guess, to say lack of better words. But like what is it, do you think, what's the hardest thing about what you're doing, do you think?
um well, that's a tough question to answer. Let's see. Like maybe I think what's tough in general is just the way the landscape has changed, especially with rock music and just how everything has become more digitized with streaming and all that kind of stuff. And like, you know, I, uh, my generation is like kind of on, we're kind of on the edge of like where we still didn't have like, you know, TikTok and Instagram and Spotify only became a thing when I was like 16 or 17.
Mm.
You know, like we were still um you know, downloading music illegally and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm getting at is like I think the content machine really changed a lot when I was growing up, whereas like I have younger siblings and for them it's just like they have full TikTok brain rot, all that kind of stuff. They grew up with that stuff.
Mhm.
uh, and it's just the idea of having to become like content creators now is so foreign, I think, to a lot of at least my generation of musicians, because we're like, wait, hold on, like, you know, they used to just tell us to make maybe a YouTube cover every once in a while. Maybe that would be the thing. Now it's like you have to make the music and you have to post all your pictures and you have to make these like dumb reels and TikToks that are like clickbaity
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, and by the way, you need to do that daily as well.
yeah, and you have to do it consistently because there's an algorithm now that like
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, it's fucking exhausting because like I just want to make music.
Yeah.
And
I feel
it
that.
sometimes it feels impossible to get your music out there without acknowledging that these things are important. And there's only so much like um what's the word I'm trying to say here, like I have a sense of pride. There's so much, only so much pride I can have in like, oh, I don't want to do that, you know, I don't want to be the TikTok band or whatever.
Mm.
You know, it only goes so far before you're like, shit, well maybe this is something you have to utilize these days if you actually want to make it anywhere. And
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and the thing about that too, Justin, is like you've only got a certain amount of creativity too, right? Like, so if you're like taking away from the product, like you say, I just want to fucking make music. So you're taking away like, hey boys, let's quickly make a TikTok video, or like, hey, can you quickly say this? And I'm going to piece this. Like now suddenly you're losing sight of what Broken Love's about.
100%. So you kind of nailed it. It's like I feel like maybe what has changed now, and obviously I can't say because I wasn't around in the music business, you know, in the golden era, some would maybe say,
Yeah.
but like you're all encompassing now. You're not only the songwriter, you're also the photographer, you're the video guy, you're the you know the art director, you're the social media manager, you're everything, you know, you're literally not, I mean most of us can kind of produce or engineer nowadays because if you don't know how to build a demo like on your own anymore. I mean, music is made with computers now. So it's like if you don't know how to use, you know, Pro Tools or Logic or whatever kind of DAW at home or get like a half decent setup, like
Mm.
you have to learn all this stuff now if you kind of want to make it. There's less resources that are available, and there's less obviously funding available for rock musicians, especially.
Mm.
Uh,
But you guys do all that, like the creative beast. No, maybe not BC because you're obviously not from BC, but you'll do factor grants and shit. Like you'll apply for them at the very least, right?
for them for sure. I mean, it's been tough. I mean, just because we have this weird situation where like I'm Canadian, but I'm signed to an American label, and it just gets really complicated. With I'm not going to bore anybody with that
Mm. Mm.
information, but I've just learned to become self-sufficient, which obviously, listen, a lot of artists have to be. But I think that's maybe one of the biggest hurdles you have to get over these days is you have to sort of be comfortable with doing everything. There used to be, you know, more teams available to you. You used to have a serious marketing team or big PR, you know, external PR, or
Yeah.
you know,
Back when record labels chucked a shit ton of money at bands and stuff, right? Like,
it doesn't really happen anymore. And I was lucky, you know, at one point in my career before all the Broken Love stuff, I had it. I was signed to another label, and they did actually give us, you know, a pretty significant chunk of change just for development, which was kind of crazy to think of now,
mm,
or is kind of crazy to think of now because that was probably like again right at the turn of like the streaming and all that stuff. Like it wasn't really as popular as it was now. There wasn't reels. There wasn't, you know, TikTok. It didn't exist then. So I'm not going to say that's the main reason why these things have stopped, but I'm just trying to think of a
mhm.
in terms of like revenue. I think they were still getting it from a lot of places, you know, and this label obviously had money. Um, they gave me a chance to develop. They gave me, a budget to go and try to make some demos and try to figure out my sound and get in sessions and all that kind of stuff. But
Hmm. Hmm.
it's kind of unheard of now. You don't you, it's not surprising when you hear like, oh, okay, so and so band that just got signed by this label actually recorded the first record all by themselves. They produced it themselves, they mixed it themselves, and then they turned it in, and then the label bought it from them. You know, because they didn't put in any money to let them make the record or whatever. You have to kind of show up. Um,
Well, you have to be self-sufficient, like
yeah,
ready to go and like, okay, now we'll take you on.
got to be like fully thawed. Like by the time you get to these places now, I feel like a lot of people aren't putting. There's people aren't taking risk. That's basically what it comes down to. And I understand. Listen, this is still a business at the end of the day. It's still called the music business. So
Yeah.
I'm, you know, I'm not the one that's calling the shots. I'm sure if I had to invest in it, I'd probably get nervous too. But I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Maybe that's to answer your question on this long-winded rant.
Yeah.
There's just all those factors, just being self-sufficient, I think is probably the toughest thing of it all. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know,
You said you're what? You're 27. So what was the music in your house then? Like what were you growing up around?
so growing up, my parents, they loved like my dad's a really big like disco and like funk guy. So it was a lot of like Casey and the Sunshine Band and like Bee Gees. My dad loves Earth, Wind, and Fire. He used to listen to Chicago a lot, Michael, like tons of Michael Jackson.
ABBA?
My ABBA-ish. I mean, that was like bar mitzvah music. I go to all those and we would listen to Dancing Queen and Mamma Mia and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
my mom really loved like George Michael and Wham a lot.
Mm.
It's her favorite, so I listened to a lot of George Michael growing up as well. But my uncle Cy was the rock guy, so he was the one that showed me Led Zeppelin and showed me Kiss, and he took me to my first real concert was AC/DC, and
Sick, dude. First show was AC/DC.
well, my first I say first real show was AC/DC because my first shows before that I went with my parents weren't like rock shows, you know? And then I saw AC/DC, Nickelback, and like Bon Jovi in the same year. And like those were like my first real
Wow. Like
holy,
there's an eye-opening year. Like who
But
of those three were the best band?
it was tough. It's tough to say because um the venues were different sizes, right? Like
Mm.
AC/DC played in the stadium, so it was like I was so far from the stage, but the stage production was probably the best because I mean they're fucking AC/DC. Like they had like set changes, and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
as far as like live performance, like Nickelback was probably the best because they just sounded so good. I couldn't believe Chad sounded that good live. And also at the time I was a big fan of Daughtry, and I'm pretty sure Daughtry opened up for him. Or
Oh,
sorry,
okay. And that was maybe that tour where he even came up and sang Saving Me. I think he did that on most of the tour dates, I think.
maybe. I can't remember if this was pre or post Dark Horse. I'm not sure. I was so young. I might have been like 9 years old or 10 years old at the time.
By
Uh,
the way, I love that you love Nickelback as well. We were
oh,
back and forth after your show here in Vancouver, and you guys opened up for the Bluestones. And I texted you back and forth, like, dude, I'm gonna fucking send Chad your music. And I sent him, and he was like, dude, this fucking band is like, so he knows of Broken Love, like he knows you guys, right?
that's pretty cool. I remember that. I'll never forget that. It was just, I remember you texting that, and I was like, shit, like, it'd be really awesome to hang with Chad. But it was the last night of the tour. So we had this like huge party
It
downstairs, and
was crazy.
it was like a whole thing. And I was like, okay, I'm like, we have like party stuff. I'm like, I guess I'm kind of stuck here.
Yeah, yeah. What is the biggest crowd that Broken Love's played for?
um, hmm, the biggest crowd, I would say. I think we played in front of like 7,000 people or 8,000 people. We played an arena show, obviously opening. We played it in Minneapolis like years ago. It was like a radio show. We played with it was like 311 Highly Suspect. I think
Hmm.
Glorious on that show. We were like the first of three or four on this like big arena.
It was like 311 though. That's an interesting
Yeah,
combo.
I think 311 was like the headliner at the radio show.
Yeah.
It was in we were on another tour at the time, and it was like a one-off we did just like on the day off or something. But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest show we've done. When we went on tour with Wolfgang Van Halen or Mammoth,
Oh, cool.
and he was playing pretty big venues. Like it was probably average like 1,500, 2,000 people a night, I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, what's really cool is like how perspective changes like as the band goes on, and like rooms I used to think were really big have now become really small. And like that's a really cool feeling. You know, you walk into like Lee's Palace in Toronto, and I used to think that was like such a big venue. I was like, wow, this is look at all this space. And then when we started playing it on tour, and then coming back a couple years after, I was like, holy shit, this is a small venue now.
Love it.
And that's cool, man. Like that is really cool, because
It's
like
so rad. Like I remember you guys when you started up the show here at the, I think it was the Orpheum. Didn't you guys play the Orpheum or was it the QE or something like that? One of those cool rooms in Vancouver, right? But you came out and the first thing out of your mouth is like, fucking enjoy this show because this is the last time we're playing a small venue like this in Vancouver. And I was like, yeah, buddy, let's go.
yeah,
So good.
I was probably like shit faced drunk for the last night of the tour.
Obviously, Justin, you're a huge music geek. So hit us with like, who are your top five singers?
Oof. Top five singers. Okay. If I could just
Of course, this could change. Like if I talk to you tomorrow, it may change, right? So at the moment, what are your top five?
right now, okay, well, definitely Robert Plant. That's without a question. Robert Plant for sure. I would say Steven Tyler, Chris Cornell for sure. Um, right now, though, funny enough, one of my favorite singers right now that I can't stop listening to is Michael McDonald. And that might be kind of a surprise, but I think Michael McDonald is
Like the
so
guy that sings like this.
it's like I like ironically listened to him for so long because we would do the thing, just like you did like listening more to his records, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is a technical powerhouse.
Yeah.
He's soulful, he's unbelievable. So I've been listening to a ton of Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan, and for lack of a better term, a lot of yacht rock lately.
Yeah.
Obsession. So I'm actually going to say Michael McDonald is in that for me right now. I fucking
That's rad, dude. I saw Doobie Brothers when I was about maybe 18 in Kelowna, and it was just at like randomly at this park, just an open park, and so went in and checked it out. Did you know that they have two drummers in that band?
holy shit, I didn't know.
So like
Maybe
two separate kits are set up and fucking like they're just tearing shit up. It was such a great show, man. But yeah, that I never would have called that coming out of your mouth, man.
right now I'm having this whole kind of just vibe switch where like I'm trying to get away from so much rock because that's practically all I listen to.
Yeah,
Something about this yacht rock shit's just really speaking to me lately. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I agree.
Kenny Loggins, oh my God, just like fantastic singers. Like from a technical standpoint, just so soulful and just so amazing.
Lionel Richie.
Lionel Richie's fantastic. I'm a huge Prince fan, big
Yeah,
Prince.
nice.
I would probably say my fifth favorite singer though, like if like just in of all time is like also maybe like Michael Jackson, believe it or not, as
Mm.
well. Huge Michael Jackson fan. He's always been a huge influence on me, and I love when sometimes some fans will like listen to stuff and they'll be like, oh, this kind of doing like an MJ thing here, and I'm like, yes, thank you so much. Like, that he was like one of the first guys I tried to emulate as a kid. Before I wanted to be a rock star, I wanted to dance and moonwalk like Michael and do all that kind of stuff. So probably an eclectic, it's an interesting list of people at the moment, but
Yeah,
mainstay is always Robert Plant. Robert and Chris Cornell never get off that list for me. They're just forever, all time, the
I
great.
I would put Plant, I would put Cornell. I don't know that I'd go MJ.
Yeah, I love them.
But yeah, man, like how can you get away from Zeppelin, Soundgarden? Like Soundgarden is the best of the grunge or that specific era, right?
I agree wholeheartedly for sure.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Um, by the way, I'm the first of like you have like a marathon session of interviews today. And the reason I took this one because sometimes you get like maybe a bad interviewer before, so it's kind of sets off like the person you're interviewing. They're like kind of not. I was like, you know what, I'm going to hit Justin right away so he gets a good interview out of the gates. So hopefully, fucking this just plows you for the next 5, 6 hours or whatever you're doing it. Uh, I would like to get outside of music though, real quick, because I only have you for I think another 8 or 9 minutes, something like that, right? Something like that.
Like, yeah, like seven
Something like
minutes.
that. I think you got half-hour intervals. So let's get into your personal life and not necessarily personal life, but I want to know about the shows and stuff that you're binge watching right now.
Oh, right now, so I just finished Shorzy.
Okay.
Um, Fucking unreal. I mean, it's super Canadian,
Yeah. It's so funny.
Assuming most people who are listening to this are Canadian, so they'll maybe understand the humor and just like all the chirping and the hockey
Yeah.
link kind of stuff. What a show. I just binged it like a week ago and I did it in like 4 days. Now
Oh,
I've
nice.
I've been watching House every night.
Yeah.
It's like I just missed it growing up, because like it was still a little too like formulaic. Like it's got more of a mid 2000s soap opera vibe, or I don't know how to describe it. I know it's a drama, but I was watching like Breaking Bad and like, you know, Walking Dead and all that kind of shit in high school. I missed House.
Yeah.
So I fucking love it now. It's just like,
Oh, it's such a great series
oh
for sure. Yeah.
man, I can't get enough of it. Like I literally got out of bed, I'm not gonna lie, like 20 minutes before we did this because I was up till 4 watching House.
Oh my God, that's rad.
I love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, as far as TV shows, that's kind of it. I mean, I haven't really been watching too much other than that. I did see Zeppelin put out that Becoming Led Zeppelin documentary like two
Yeah,
weeks
I
ago.
haven't seen it yet, but I want to, of course.
Dude, I definitely, as a Zeppelin fan, you'll like it, but I also think as a Zeppelin fan, you've probably seen all this footage before. It's not,
Possibly, yeah. Maybe, maybe not though.
you get to hear John Bonham's voice though, which is really cool. I've never heard him speak before, so that was really cool.
Mm,
And if you can, go see it in IMAX if it's still in theaters, because just this, I mean, come on, listening this
'cause it's Zeppelin. Like,
IMAX is like,
yeah.
I couldn't stop air drumming. Like, everybody's looking at me like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like, just Led
That's
Zeppelin.
so good.
You can't play Moby Dick and not expect me to go.
Nice. Justin, are you a big sports guy? Like, are you a big fan of like the Leafs and shit? No, not really.
I mean, I watched the national game, like the Canada versus yeah, US thing, like two
Yeah.
weeks ago. That was great hockey, but I'm not too big of a sports guy. I grew up playing hockey, but I mean that's not a surprise to any Canadian.
Mm,
But I don't sit down and watch sports ever.
mm.
I like UFC though. I think UFC is cool.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Drama.
dude, I love UFC, man. I try to get on UFC fighters all the time, man. I had Raquel Pennington on maybe about last year at some point, and she was like the best, man. Like, right before she became champ.
That's rad. Like that stuff is exciting to me. I guess with sports, I don't know. I was never attracted to it growing up. I felt like it was a thing I had to do, you know.
Mm.
Like I had to play hockey when I was a kid because my dad, and that's what you do. And then I quit to start playing guitar.
Girls and music, baby. Let's go. Yeah.
I've been thinking yesterday. I was having dinner with my brother, and I was like, let's fucking put on the skates again. Like I think I want to play hockey again. We're thinking about getting some ice next week, and then and maybe just play a little podcast. We'll see if we still got it.
Dude, you should try to get involved in the Juno Cup when they play, right? Because do you know the guys in Theory of a Dead Man?
I not personally know.
Okay, because they're good, long time buddies of mine. And when I had Dean, the bass player, on, he was mentioning that how he'd played in the Juno Cup and did a face off against, like, I don't know, I can't remember exactly who it was, but like one of the best, you know, and he's like, yeah, and I was like playing on D and I had like Paul Coffey's coming at me and like, holy fuck, right? Oh my God.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I mean, first I got to figure out if I could still skate. It's been a long time, but
Yeah, probably that first. Yeah.
the last time we were on tour last year, one of the venues had an arena like attached to it, so they gave us skates, and we were like skating around just before the show, like after sound check. And I was like, "Oh shit, I could still skate. You know, I could still shoot a puck." I wasn't like great. I could definitely tell that I had lost some skill, but I don't know. Honestly, ever since I watched Shoresy, I got the itch again to.
Nice. That's great. How about superhero movies? Are you a fan of like the Batman, Superman, X-Men, none of that shit?
Huge fan of
Huge
Marvel.
fan. Oh, that's great. Okay. So was it Marvel or is it DC for you?
I'm a big Marvel guy. As far as DC goes, like I love Batman, but most of the DC superheroes never really spoke to me. Like I find Superman just like too overpowered.
Well, it's just too much, dude. You can fucking laser vision. You can see through shit. You can fly around the world like at lightning speed. It's too much.
Marvel has always been my thing. Like I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. Like I have all. I mean, you know, they've been putting out a bunch of Spider-Man games the past couple of years too. Like all the Sony games have been awesome. Um, I love Wolverine. You know,
Yeah.
I love the Hulk. I love Iron.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I grew up on this shit too. So it's like I mean, I had comic books growing up, and I played all their video games. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many like Halloweens I've dressed up as Spider-Man, you know, or like we used to have those little squirter things, like the wrist shooter shit, you know. And I used to, my poor parents, I used to like shoot our trees outside growing up, and my dad would have to, you know, clean all the gunk out of the trees. But I
It's so good.
know, I mean, man, ugh. I rewatched all the Marvel movies like maybe last summer or something. I just did it in order, but
I
I
did
have
that with my kids too. What's the best one? Like I think once the John Favreau put out the Iron Man, like it
yeah.
was like, okay, you have to hit it here, otherwise don't make a movie, right? Like
I think the best one to me is my favorite might be Captain America Civil War was fucking awesome.
so good.
That's a wicked one. As far as the new phase, like you know what's going on now, I've become a little less interested because all like the heavy hitters aren't really around anymore. So that kind of sucks because like I miss Captain America, I miss Iron Man. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to see the new Captain America about like 2 months before it came out, but then I ended up going on a vacation last minute, so I didn't get to actually see it.
Yeah.
But I've been meaning to see it. But like I said, I'm a huge superhero guy. I love
Yeah.
that stuff.
Brad. One last question, and I'm gonna let you go because I know you got to get moving to the next one. If you have a quick near death story, let's hear it. Where you're like, holy shit, could have just died there.
Uh, near death story. Let's see. Hmm. I think the closest I ever felt to like us dying was probably on tour. I mean, like, well, there was one time somebody pulled a gun on me in on tour as well, but it ended up being a police officer, but I didn't know it was a police officer. But in the moment, I thought I was going to get shot. Very quickly, I was in Minot, North Dakota, and this fugitive had run through the venue while we were playing. I guess this dude was a bounty hunter coming to collect him, and he jumped out of the window and ran across these train tracks because the venue was outside next to these train tracks. And long story short, I was out on the train tracks after our set talking to like the hospitality guy for the day,
Mm.
and it was very low, like low lighting. It was dark, you know. So we're out there. I was checking out his motorcycle, and I see a figure come out behind a bush, and it's just a silhouette. And I see a silhouette of a guy holding a gun, and he's walking towards me with a gun drawn. He's not saying anything, um, and I couldn't really tell. Oh, I couldn't see who it was or what he was wearing until he was about maybe 4 or 5 feet away from me. So the entire time, you know, I have my hands up and I'm sweating, and I'm like, you know, you think in that moment in your head, maybe if you ever had the vision of like, oh, when somebody pulls a gun on me, I'm gonna fucking take the gun. I'm gonna, you know, it doesn't happen. You
No, you're
free,
not.
you know. Um, only, when he got close to my face, I was like, oh shit. He didn't announce like, oh, police, police, put your hands up or anything like that. He just started walking with his weapon drawn. And that
Wow.
that was probably one of the scariest moments of my entire life. Uh,
Wow, dude.
and
That's crazy.
I was okay. And he, as soon as he came, he was like, "Did you see a guy ran through the thing, whatever?" And he just like,
Yeah.
took, but for
He's
that,
like,
like
holy shit, dude.
that 10 seconds of him like walking up to me like this, I froze. I completely froze. Like
Wow.
everything kind of went blank. I thought, oh, this is it. I'm getting shot right here, in North Dakota. This is how it all ends. And
Crazy.
thank God I'm still here. So
Justin,
that's near death story.
thank you for taking the time this morning to join the podcast here in Vancouver. New Broken Love is out March 28th.
Yep, correct. March
What's it
20th,
called?
called The Program.
The Program. I'm on the program in a big, big way, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys come through Vancouver. We'll hang, have a beers, and shoot the shit. Have a great what do they call this again? This is a press junket. Have a great junket.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.